evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Tonight's meeting has been advertised according to New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gilly?
Here.
Mr. Halverson?
Here.
Mr. Langley?
Here.
Mr. Naftali? Mr. Ribbiat? Mr. Ingram?
Here.
Mr. Gross?
Here.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Halverson?
Here. I see that we have two board members missing, so I'll be placing Mr. Gross and Mr. Naftali in lieu. Ask everyone to please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Can I have an approval for the minutes of March 4th meeting? A motion by Mr. Halverson. Madam Secretary, can I have a second? Who was that? Mayor Gelli, second. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gilly?
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
Yes.
Mr. Langley?
Yes.
Mr. Ingram?
Yeah.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Okay. Any correspondence from tonight's meeting?
No.
No. And there's no old business either? Correct? Madam Secretary, no old business? I wasn't here last one, so. We do have, we have old business moving forward. No? Okay. Okay, fine, so there's some carry, that's fine, so we're gonna, okay, so then we're gonna go into appeal number 3935A, applicant K10. Okay, this I believe is a remand application.
That's correct.
Okay. So, yes.
K1 Meta, appeal number 3935A, use variance relief and minor subdivision approval. The applicant obtained use and bulk variance relief and minor subdivision approval by appeal number 3935 to subdivide an existing 160,000 square foot lot, 3.67 acres property, known as Block 256 and Block 116001, into two new commercial lots designated as lots 25601 and 25602 on the subdivision plan. Subsequent to this minor subdivision approval, the applicant obtained planning board approval to construct a hotel on lot 256.02.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, and representative the applicant. As the board may recall, I think the majority, if not all of you, were here approximately 2 years ago when I came before this board for this application. This property is, I know as the car wash on Route 70. That original approval came from the zoning board as car washes were not a permitted use along that zone along Route 70. That was the reason why we were before this board to begin with. We're back before the board. We got the approval to subdivide the property, and then went on to the planning board as it was a permitted use, then ensuing litigation. The judge has indicated again to come back before this board, not for a reapproval, however, just for an acknowledgement from the board that you guys understood that there was a shared access and that there was going to be intensification to the use of to the car wash property. As again, we were cutting off a piece of property that it wasn't being utilized by them, but there would obviously be some kind of intensification to that original variance that was granted. If I could ask this time, we're going to swear in Ian Borden, and we'll then mark our exhibits, and I'll go from there. I do note that Ron Nazrowski is here, who did represent the objector. We will proceed.
Raise your right hand, please, Mr. Borden. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you give is the truth, the whole truth?
I do. Thanks.
Ian, if you can, please tell us what the exhibits are and please mark them.
Certainly. Good evening.
Good evening.
And just the board, Mr. Borden, been before the board many times, do you accept the credentials?
See the signature many times.
I recommend two exhibits. The one on the right, I haven't actually marked it out, but there's one. This is a copy of the file minor subdivision plan as approved and subsequently filed. I'll explain more when I get into my testimony. And on the left is A2, which is a copy of the site plan that was presented to the planning board. What I was was presented to the.
Oh, the hotel, I think back in the day when you sounded.
Correct, so again, we came to this board for the subdivision.
Correct.
Once we're subdivided, we then go to the planning board for approval.
Right, right, so to reinforce the history of the project, as Fran has summarized, for the 3.67 acre lot, lot 856, we have received approval for a D1 variance to intensify the existing car wash use, called the Auto Spa, that's what its commercial name is. The D1 variance was to place the Auto Spa on 1.84 acres, because we split the lot in half, and that was of course the minor subdivision. As noted, the Auto Spa was, and still is not a permitted use in the B5 zone. Maybe to go back just for record keeping further, the car wash, or the Auto Spa originally received the D1 variance approval in April 2003 under Resolution 3346 to construct a drive-through car wash, lube center, and detail. That's what's been built, that's what's been there for the past 15 years. B5 zone did not permit it then, does not permit it now. So again, we came in 2016 to intensify the use onto the 1.84 acre lot. There was no proposed modifications to their site plan improvements, and that remains the same today. Subsequently, let me just explain on A1. What we have on A1 here, which again is the amended file subdivision plat. The blue is the outline of the tract, lot 856. The orange is the lot line that was created by the filing of this map in 2016. I did this myself, so pardon the lack of artistic talent. The shaded building is shown at the Auto Spa, and then the yellow is the access drives and parking spaces. We had submitted again, down on A2, we had submitted a site plan to the planning board. That was approved. I'll let the lawyers explain, but it ended up being approval, as I understand it, being null and void in court. So we have been remanded to specifically talk about one particular item of the Auto Spa, and that is the green on A1. On A1, the whole intent of the subdivision, and this was part of our testimony in 2016, but I'll reinforce it tonight, was to any future development of the second lot, which ultimately is proposed to be the hotel, did and continues to propose to share the driveway that's located on the Auto Spa lot, which is the small area parking. That is a shared access easement that was included on the approved plans. That is subsequently compiled, and that occupies 1,200 square feet, 4.03 acres. It has been argued that the purpose of the remand, as I understand it, is to discuss the intensification of the car wash lot as created by that shared access driveway. It's my opinion that we did discuss that in 2016, but be that as it may, I think it's appropriate that we put more planning testimony on the record today to just make sure that we have fully addressed that issue. In my opinion, again, the shared driveway being 0.03 acres, that then intensifies the car wash from the could be considered to intensify the car wash on the 1.84 acres that we got approved for the lot by an additional 300 of an acre or down to 1.81 acres. That's the way I personally look at it from an empirical perspective. While it could be deemed, in my opinion, to be the expansion of a non-conforming use, my intent is to provide D1 variance testimony for that intensification. Should be noted that as part of this, as part of this shared use of the driveway, there is a curve that runs on the western side along the edge of our proposed lot. There is a portion of that curve, 50 feet approximately, that needs to be removed. Technically, that curve is being removed from the Auto Spa property. I think it's appropriate to put on the record that we are doing a disturbance to that lot. In my opinion, it's not worthy of an amended site plan for the car wash property. And this is housekeeping, should the board grant the D1 variance for the intensification of the use of the driveway, I would hope that you could also see a way clear to grant a waiver of site plan for that removal of that short piece of curb. There's no other disturbance to the auto spa property. Again, no disturbance to their parking or driveways. One of the cases that we looked at also in preparing for this, again, understanding the situation we're in, is that there is a court case that I was asked to look at by my team, and that is the Lakewood versus Board of Little Ferry case of the Supreme Court 2011. I don't know if any of the board members have ever heard of that, but that was a case that related exactly to an intensification of the driveway from a hotel use, interestingly enough. And one of the arguments made there was that the sharing of the driveway potentially serves as a second principal use. Because if I put a driveway on somebody else's property, that driveway on somebody else's property may be a second use. In this case, however, and given the Lakewood Township ordinances, which differ from Little Ferry ordinances, I don't believe that to be the case. Because the B5 ordinance doesn't limit use to only one principal use, nor does the definition of lot in the Lakewood ordinance make reference to a principal use. In other words, the Little Ferry ordinance, in that case, talked about a lot having one principal use. The Lakewood ordinance does not have that same language. I just want to make sure the record is clear that, in my opinion, having that shared driveway on the neighboring lot, the car wash lot, the auto spa lot, is not an additional principal use. It's simply the sharing of the driveway, intensification of the use, D1 standards apply. And obviously, whatever happens with our variance tonight, the hotel site plan would need to be resubmitted to the planning board, and that has to stand on its own merits. Or I simply bring the hotel site plan to illustrate what the use is on the lot next door. I believe that was particularly mentioned in the objectors' planning and testimony that they felt that we should educate the board as to what was proposed on the adjoining lot. So what we have here is we have the B5 highway business zone. As we know, the B5 zone allows office buildings, retail stores, restaurants, and other non-residential uses, along with various forms of residential development. In our case, the property is surrounded by B5 zoning on either side along Route 70, with M1 industrial zoning located to the rear of the site along Airport Road. The area to the east of the site is undeveloped, which is the top of A1. The area to the bottom of A1, adjoining the new lot, the hotel lot, is occupied by an office complex located at the corner of Route 70 and Airport Road. Across Route 70, also in the B5 zone, are hotel, retail shops, and offices. And that's relevant because when we look at the 2017 master plan, and again I'm speaking of the auto spot use, it contains the following goals and objectives in the land use element. Item number 2 is to create a balanced and compatible arrangement of residential, business, and industrial land uses and minimize land use conflicts. I think that's particularly important. Number 4, encourage future residential and non-residential growth in a coordinated and managed manner. Number 5, amend the zoning ordinance when necessary to improve and enhance the intent and purposes of each zone district and the clarity of permitted uses and development standards. Number 6, encourage future growth and development of the township's rate base in accordance with the smart growth plan. Number 7, encourage the redevelopment of the existing underutilized lots. Number 8 is discourage deviations from existing established land use patterns that permit incompatible and conflicting land uses being developed adjacent to one another. And number 9, discourage the construction of new residential development fronting state, county, and major local roadways. And I mention all those because, in my opinion, the auto spa, as a commercial use not permitted in the B5 zone, is a complementary commercial use that's substantially compatible with each of those statements in the land use zone, thereby enhancing the purpose of the B5 zone district. Intensifying the auto spa onto the new lot, the 1.84, also subtracting out the 300s for the shared driveway further. Allows development on an underutilized site and growth of the township rateable base. the future development or the future development of the hotel will be commercial development on the state highway, again, encouraged by the land use. So what we are putting on the record is a D1 variance, a use or principal structure in the district restricted against such uses, particularly as relates to the intensification created by this shared driveway. And in my opinion, we meet the purposes of zoning. Under A, to encourage municipal action to guide appropriate use or development. Under G, to provide sufficient space and appropriate location for a variety of uses. And furthermore, now talking about the site and how it relates to these purposes of zoning, obviously what we are seeking here is the general welfare or particular suitability, which means that it's not required to demonstrate that the site cannot be used for its own purposes, but there is particularly suitable to this site. And in this case, the auto spa, I think what's important to understand is, as a relatively, in my opinion, non-intense use, existing use obviously been there for 15 years or so. Being located on a less than lot area, as small as 1.81 acres, when you consider the shared access driveway, is particularly well suited. And it's well suited because it's located with direct access on Roots Avenue, in a commercial zone, being a commercial use. The auto spa generates less traffic than many other commercial uses that are permitted in the zone. And I think most importantly, the auto spa easily complies with the coverage requirements on the smaller lot, even when, again, you include the enhanced driveway. For example, the B5 zone allows 30% building coverage. On the less than lot area, the auto spa has building coverage of only 12%, so much less than half. And again, on the impervious coverage, we're permitted 90%, but we are proposing 69% on the less than lot area. The existing site layout, lastly, is very well suited to the proposed lessened area. And there, as I stated, there's no changes to the existing site improvements required. In fact, when one looks at, obviously this site is developed in accordance with that 2003 site plan that I noted, which, in my opinion, always considered the future use of the adjoining property. So I think we're accomplishing that as well. Quickly, doing the negative criteria, in my opinion, the proposed use can be approved, and that the intensification through the driveway again, without substantial detriment to the public good, again, because it does not generate significant traffic. Certainly traffic is not, from the auto spa is not, no additional traffic. Certainly there's more traffic in the hotel that will be utilizing that 103-acre shared portion of the driveway. And as I said, the site has much less building impervious area than permitted. So in my opinion, the auto spa is a commercial use substantially consistent with the intent and purpose of the master plan. And as a result, the intensification of the auto spa, including additional intensification for the shared access easement, will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the master
plan. I just have two questions or comments, and one on the record, and one on the record out of attorney. The county approved this subdivision, correct?
Yes.
And did the county have an issue with the shared driveway?
No, all the appropriations for the subdivision, and it was fine. I mean, these lots exist.
Right.
The map was filed in 2016.
That's a moment.
The county's zoning board did approve.
So with this information, I'm a town attorney. Can you help me explain to me why the remand is over here exactly? We have a county approval. We have township approval. It says it clearly states in the resolution under paragraph. Well, there's no paragraph over here in the resolution, but yes, there is. Paragraph 1B, whatever, well, on page 3, letter F. Upon the filing of the subdivision map, the applicant will be allowed to apply to the planning board for a site plan approval, provided that the application is permitted use in the B5 zone, and the application has complied with all the requirements of that zone. So what I've heard here tonight, he's complying with the paragraph of our resolution back in 2016.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the matter went to court, there was a stipulation of settlement, and it's noted in the engineer's review letter the specific reason why it was remanded back to this board. My understanding is for the board to articulate in the resolution that you did examine whether there would be intensification on the car wash as a result of the access easement, and whether that results in an adverse impact to both the car wash and the hotel.
As well as the reduction of the property.
Yes.
So the order from the judge, I want to read it.
Yeah, I want you to read it, but give me just a minute. So the planning board approved it, right? So is it our responsibility to decide if it had adverse impact, or is it the planning board's responsibility? They're the ones that approved it.
It's remanded to the zoning board, it's remanded to this board.
I understand that, but we didn't approve the hotel. So we didn't see the application.
No, it's for the minor subdivision and the use variance, that's why it's here.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, clarification on what you're asking.
I'm just
Yes,
trying to.
I'm trying to give you some questions.
Yeah.
Here it goes. Was before you, was not the hotel supposed to go back before the board for other reasons, for the planning board.
Okay.
This application is, the original application was to subdivide, to take off the bottom part of that property, and to allow for the access easement. The intensification isn't about the hotel or any other properties put on to this subdivided piece. It's so that since we're taking off the lower half of the property, is that intensification, just automatically, right? You take off this piece of property, even though I believe it's wooded, or was wooded at the time, there's going to be intensification to the car wash.
How's the intensification of the car wash? You tell me you make a left to the car wash, make a right to the hotel.
You agree, and that's what we really testified to originally. The judge wanted to hear from the zoning board specifically, if you understood that one, the shared access driveway was going to theoretically intensify, whatever the use may be, on the other side of the property, there'll be intensification to the car wash property, as well as since we're taking away a piece of the land, then there'll be another intensification to it.
Simply on a smaller piece of property, the car wash today is on 3.5.
Yeah, well, as long as it complies with paragraph F, and there is no other use variance required, right? And the traffic flow works, then I don't see where there should be an intensification of a property. You know,
that's why we're here tonight to get the board.
That's what we're looking.
That's why we're here tonight, for the board to put that on the record. If that's the direction that the board is going, to have specific findings of fact that can be put in a resolution of the.
Well, I can't tell you how the hotel traffic pattern, because we haven't seen that.
Right.
I can tell you as far as the car wash, which we did approve. You come into the driveway, you make a right turn into the car wash, when you're done, 50 feet in.
And that's what the board has to examine. Does that reduced area because of this access easement create an intensification of the car wash use? And is it a detrimental situation?
Adam, can you pass me the hotel site plan?
Again, this has to go back before the planning, the hotel application has to go back before the planning.
That's only provided for information. That's only provided for information.
I wanted to look at this driveway, how it's going to work at, coming in and out of the driveway, which is exactly what I envisioned. Look, take a look. You're coming into this driveway, you're making a left turn into the hotel property, making a right turn into the spa, into the car wash, and you're done. Looks like this is 50 feet out, enough room here, or 100 feet out, 162 feet. Sorry. Enough room across the stack to get out on the 70, so you're not creating a problem. As long as they have proper control signals, stop signs, and yield signs.
From our perspective, nothing has changed from what we presented in 2016. What's changed is we have an objecting planner that made the argument that the record needs to reflect that intensification, particularly created by the driveway.
I got it. Okay.
Okay.
And before you consider Rossi to come up, because he's the objector attorney over here, correct? And I missed the last month, so I'm not there. I don't want to double dose from you this month, but I'd love to hear you. Is anyone else have anything to say? Any questions from anyone?
Mr. Chairman, the only question I have is, what are we going to be deciding on?
that, yes, we intensified.
Yes, deciding if that's the direction the board is going is a question of, would you make a finding of fact, confirming that the intensification does not have an adverse impact on the court?
I mean, basically, it's like saying, the judge is sending it back to us, like saying, guys, did you really realize this is going to be happening?
Correct.
Well, the objector made that point, and the judge felt that maybe the board should revisit it and put it in writing in a resolution, that is something they examine, and that's your decision.
Well, it says on that paragraph F, as long as it complies with those zoning requirements, and that's something what he's very, so whatever you want to vote on this. That's what paragraph F says.
The judge wanted further clarification.
Okay.
That's why
Ron, let's see what Ron says.
Jeff, if you would like to say, clarification on one point. So, the only reason why this is coming before the board, it's not every time you give somebody an easement access in your driveway. It's only because the original use for the car wash was not a permitted use and needed a variance.
Well, the expansion of the non-conforming use, because the lot is smaller now, taking out that small area of the access.
It's actually an intensification of the non-conforming use.
But the original wasn't conforming use. The fact that there's a shared easement on the driveway.
We would have been at the planning board. Right, if the zone had permitted car washes 15 years ago, we would not have been before this board ever. It would have been right before the planning board, assuming that all the other requirements.
So just to make it more narrow, what we're doing is we're trying to clarify our prior grant of the permitted use of the non-permitted use of the car wash to a car wash with a shared driveway.
Yeah, intensification due to the use area.
One last point, that the only reason this came up is because there was an objection in front of the judge.
Well, that's correct, it went into litigation.
And the judge said, go back to the board.
Yes.
To see.
Correct.
And the objector is Mr. Rob.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ron Marzarowski.
What's your name again?
Marzarowski.
I'm ready.
With an I, not with a Y.
With an I. Okay.
Chairman understands that. It's good.
Okay. Let's go back to you. Ron, who's your client, by the way?
My client is Hotels Unlimited, property owners in the township of Lakewood. I think I already disclosed that earlier hearings.
Correct.
They are in fact operators of a hotel as well. That was brought out before this board years ago. Also disclosed to the Superior Court judge as well as to my colleagues. So there's no mystery here.
No problem. So a competing hotel.
What?
A competing hotel in the area? Competition?
Competition, I guess perhaps within that area of use. I understand that. I want to just clarify one thing because we see there's some lack of clarity with regard to whether or not there is an approval for a hotel on this adjacent property, which is adjacent to the car wash. I don't believe there is an existing site plan approval for the hotel. Do you agree with that, Mr. Chairman?
100%. There is no approval. There was appealed. We have to indicate it. We will have to go back before the planning board for a new application for site plan.
Fine.
Site plan or for use?
Well, I think what happens is,
Usually,
what happens, Mike, is that initially, I think when the hotel was first approved, we established the fact that in your zoning ordinance, it was not listed as a permitted use. So what happened was we went to court, and we agreed that they would pass a new ordinance placing the hotel in that zone. I agreed that so long as they did it procedurally correct, I would not oppose that ordinance, which I did not oppose. So now we're back before this board pursuant to an agreement wherein the parties will agree that they come back before you for a subdivision. And they're going to present testimony presumably with regard to the intensification of the driveway.
Ron, bear with me, I'm a little slow. There is no approval on this hotel, on this second piece as we're speaking now. Correct? Is that what you're saying?
there was an approval.
That wasn't, today.
Not
April 8,
what's before you now
2019,
is
there was no
approved.
approval on it. April 8, 2019, does the zoning ordinance allow a hotel on this piece?
It does.
Okay, so now we're starting from scratch. No approval, hotels allowed, the applicant is going back to the planning board at a future date to get himself an approval.
If he could show they have jurisdiction.
If they can show they have jurisdiction as opposed to.
I mean, there's variations to that, but that will cause that.
Okay, I just want to get it straight, okay.
So,
Okay, go ahead.
one problem which I have with regard to this application which is before you now, what you're being called upon is to make a determination as to whether or not the location of this one driveway on the lot from the car wash is an intensification of the use of that driveway, thus an intensification of the use of the car wash lot. Now, you don't have a site plan, to demonstrate the size of the hotel, the number of rooms of the hotel. The number of rooms of the hotel will determine whether or not, how many cars will be coming on and off this site, co-mingling with the traffic from the car wash. We don't know whether or not this hotel will have a liquor license or a restaurant, once again, thus increasing the use of the hotel property. You just simply don't know that. And I would respectfully submit to you, you can't make that determination until you're told what it is. There's been no testimony. And by the way, I've known Mr. Gordon as well as his father for many years, so we have a cordial relationship. Mr. Gordon's given you no testimony with regard to that, nor in fact is he a traffic consultant or a traffic expert. He's a very fine planner. I think his testimony as he presented it to you was truthful. I just don't think it was sufficient. I don't think he covered the things that he would have to cover in order for you to make a determination as to whether or not this driveway, as it's presently situated on the car wash lot, is of sufficient size where the traffic patterns are such that it can accommodate these two uses.
My question to you is, if I may, Mr. Chairman, what do you want? What do you want? A bigger driveway?
Bigger driveway?
You don't want a driveway for the parking?
It may very well be, and I don't wish to sound disrespectful, it may very well be that there should be a separate driveway on the lot which contains the hotel. Why is there one driveway?
Why they come forward?
Pardon me?
When the application...
They have no approvals.
So when the application for the hotel comes to the table, at that time they'll talk about driveways.
Yeah, but the burden,
I can't decide it today.
but the burden which is upon you this evening is whether or not this applicant presented sufficient testimony to you.
Okay. I hear you. Can I ask you another question? Last time you gave the approval of splitting up this paragraph, this property, and it clearly states in our resolution that so long the property is fits in the zone, doesn't require any zoning variances.
Well, it does require a variance. It does require a variance.
I don't know if it requires variances. I don't see a hotel application.
It's an undersized lot. The hotel lot's an undersized lot. The hotel lot does not have, I don't believe it has sufficient frontage. The hotel lot doesn't have
No,
any precedent.
because when we gave it an upon approval, let's read the paragraph together. Did you see it? Upon the filing of the subdivision map. Wait, Ron. On filing of the subdivision map, applicant will be allowed to apply to the planning board for this site plan approval, to the planning board for site plan approval, provided that the application is permitted the use in the D5 zone, which a hotel is, okay? And that the application has complied with all requirements for that zone. So it means that we totally can put whatever he has to put in on that piece of property. Now, if you want me to tell me, let me finish my thought process. So if you wanted to tell me that I should add the line so long that it doesn't intensify the use of that property, hey, I can do that. But it's clear.
Well, let me tell
You
you,
disagree to agree with me, Mr. Lawyer.
Yes, I agree. Again, we should be limiting the discussion and the board's review tonight in accordance with the specific language from the judge's order, rather than continue talking about the hotel, but hotel can be the jurisdiction.
We don't have,
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, let's see what Ron has to say.
Let me answer this question. the difference on the intensity of the use on the car wash property is in fact the size of the hotel, was 25 units, 50 units, 75 units, or 100 units? And the answer obviously is yes. We don't know, you don't know, as this board sits here this evening, how many units they intend to place on the hotel property. How can you make a determination with regard to...
So the same time, I can't tell you today that I can't allow a hotel to come in over there. I believe that the hotel should come and present its case, and then they'll decide if it's an intensified use or not. And so long that, I still think the hotel should move forward and present its application.
But the court's telling you, Mr. Becker, is here for you to determine whether or not the use of a driveway is being intensified or not. Once again, how do you know that?
As of now, I don't see the driveway being intensified.
Why don't I call my witness, because I understand the difficulties we have with grasping that. I'm not saying that they're sure.
I skipped a month, maybe I'm not sharp. You know, just to get clear again, we are voting on intensification of a driveway to the car wash, is that correct?
In a nutshell, that's what the...
Why, if there's no rules for a hotel, why are we even listening about hotel?
This is for the use of the hotel and the car.
When they come back, is it about the use of the hotel?
Well, no, the hotel is now permitted use, so that's the planning board's jurisdiction.
I mean, in theory, if a hotel would come, would it be, but when something comes, we'll worry about it then. No? No, it's called, when we see what's in front of us, and the driveway is not big enough, we'll tell them they gotta do something.
According to them, you're not gonna see it because they're going to the planning board for the hotel.
Then the planning board will take care of it.
We'll cross that bridge.
Okay.
Maybe I'm suggesting can we put some language in there that when a hotel goes in front of the planning board, that they should take a really good look?
You should put it in this, well, if you have to get the rule, is for intensified use. And at that time, you're going to work it out.
Your testimony to make sure it doesn't further.
Okay. Yeah, let's hear what your witness has to say over here.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony about to give tonight is the truth?
I do. Richard Gordon, Gemma, G-E-N-N-A. Sorry if I don't. Gordon, Gemma, G-E-M-M-A, 68 Seneca Place, Ocean Fort, New Jersey. Nothing.
Okay, can you tell me who your witness is over here? What do we got here?
If you could pay attention, you would have heard.
I'm 11, just think you did it. I was a professional planner, I have been as such for...
That's probably before the whole country.
Okay, so you know what you feel.
I know. Let me, as they say, cut to the chase.
Thank you.
All right, exactly. I think you're right. You've got to ask, and Mr. Daffy said, why are we here? Here was a remand from the court. The remand from the court said, particularly look at the issue of intensification. Now, when it came to intensification, you actually have a letter from your engineer. You have a letter from your engineer to tell us what to look at. That's the March 25th, 2018, to the 19 letter from Remington Bergen. And it says, look at this. It says, testimony should be provided by the applicant's professionals, in support of use variance reconsideration, including intensification impacts to the car wash resulting from the proposed shared driveway access between the existing car wash and the approved hotel. Now that's the problem, and that's what you're wrestling with right now. That's the problem, and that's what you're wrestling with right now. Because the issue would be, under your premise, the hotel should go to the planning board, because that's what it should be. Well, that creates a bit of an issue. And the bit of an issue is, if the hotel goes to the planning board, and it's a big hotel, and there is an intensification of use, that application doesn't belong in front of the planning board. Only this board can give what's called a D2 variance. The variance we're looking at tonight, that the applicant noticed for, is actually a D2, expansion of a non-conforming use. The non-conforming was approved in 2003. And so you have to look at it and say, I'm looking at the facts as to whether this use is being intensified by two things. Thing number one, it's on a lot smaller than otherwise existing within the zone. It's 1.84 acres for both lots. And so you're 100% correct.
If your resolution of approval says it has to totally comply with the ordinance, then it shouldn't be in front of the planning board. It should be back here. And the problem that puts you in, part of the issue, is you're being asked to judge an intensification of a use. You have no idea what the use is going to be. You have no idea how it's going to generate. You have no idea where it's going to generate. I don't know how you can do it. It's not fair to ask this board to do that.
On that note,
Go ahead.
when we approved this project, they wanted us to split the property, right? So we split the property so long, you bring in something else that doesn't require any special variances and go straight to the planning board.
Correct.
Right?
By virtue of your splitting the property, I understand what you're saying, by virtue of your splitting the property and making a non-conforming use on both, a non-undersized lot on both sides, both sides are 1.84 acres. By the very nature of that, and the language you just read to me in your resolution, he has to seek a variance for an undersized lot that is back in front of the board.
Not necessarily, and I'll argue with you on that.
Okay, I would love to hear this one.
Because I'll tell you what, when we determined that, we gave permission to go to the planning board and created that second undersized lot as such that he can build anything that he would like to, so long as it doesn't require any further variances besides and outside of the 1.4 acres.
Just so you're clear, what we're saying.
One second, Ron.
So what we're saying is this, that I acknowledge that I gave them an undersized lot.
Correct.
And as long as they don't go for anything else, then they don't need to come back to this board, even though I acknowledge it's an undersized lot.
Oh, we have to acknowledge we gave it.
You gave it to them. You could have easily said, look, make a car wash on a small one and a hotel on a bigger one. But you didn't. You gave them two undersized.
Okay.
You gave them two undersized lots. But I would proffer to you, in the language you read, it doesn't quite say that. The language you read, the language you read said, it says to me that this board is trying to keep its jurisdiction. Regardless of the language of that, Mr. Halberstam, the problem that you have today is you have a judge who said, you have to make, the order says, make a determination as to whether in fact this lot, this undersized, this car wash is being intensified. Your engineer says there better be testimony about traffic, about this undersized lot, about this car wash. But you can't, there's no testimony about traffic. In fact, in 2016, when you gave the approval, and Mr. Gordon spoke, I read the resolution, and in 2016, you know what your Remington verdict said in 2016? It said in its June 9th, 2016 letter to this board, it said that there has to be testimony as to the adequacy of access for the hotel and the auto spa. It said that you need testimony to see whether you were increasing and intensifying the use. Ian did a good job today of talking about the positives and negatives. Ian did a good job of talking about the purposes of zoning. I proffer, though, the intent of Judge Ford's order is for you to make a determination. Is it intensifying? And the answer is you are 100% correct. And repeat that on the record. You can't. And you can't because you don't know what's there on the hotel lot. And you don't know what's on the lot because it's not approved. And that's the problem that this board is in. Normally this board, I've been in front of this board long enough. If this was an issue about the intensity of the use, you would ask questions about traffic generation, queuing, PM and peaks, making the conflicting movements. All the things that this board normally
mentioned before.
All the things that you would normally ask any traffic expert to come in front of you. You can't. So I proffer, as a planner, I'm not as smart as Mr. Gordon. I can't make a determination that this is being intensified. You can't either, because you don't know. Then how do you comply with the order that has been put in front of you by a judge? What's going to happen, Walter, is that if you decide it's not intensified, because a hotel doesn't intensify, that's nice. You know what's going to happen? We're going to be back here a year from now. What is the solution? There's a simpler solution to all of this. And the simplest solution is come back in front of this board with a hotel use, this board has jurisdiction, have the hotel use, have the ability to go to the hotel, as well as D2 variance, if it's needed, under the Raspberry case, which is the case about intensification. The board makes the determination, the court makes the determination. The issue of intensification is an issue of fact and law. In fact, under the Raspberry case, Judge Stillman writes that just by mere shrinking of the lot is enough to be an intensification. He talks about buffers. He made a point. There's not a buffer suggested here. There's no change, there's no site plan on the car wash. But the point I'm getting at is you can't. I know, and the point is you can't make a determination about intensity. What are you doing? Because
Hold on, let me back for a second, okay? We can make a determination, we can have language that is, that we could approve this split of the car wash, right? And disagree with me, please just let me know. And you also, if you doubt it. We can basically go ahead and say that this splitting of the property is okay, and I believe that's where Judge Ford is going.
No, I think.
Wait, that so long, when we split this property, right? It doesn't require any further variance requirement, and it doesn't intensify the traffic on it, shall go to the planning board.
Well, remember, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Let me just let it pass. You said.
That's what the judge wants to hear.
You said so long as it doesn't, this is about, so long as it doesn't intensify the traffic. The problem is we're making a determination, we're trying to make a determination that this doesn't intensify the traffic.
We can't.
Then you can't do it. That's it.
No, that's the next board. Wait, I'll argue, but the next board figure out if it intensifies or not.
But how will the next board, the planning board, we're not going to look at that, we're going to look at just the units.
No,
We can't tell them to look at something that we're supposed to look at.
Well, Mr. Hobson, the point is,
You follow what I'm saying?
I thought the same, but to go to your point, sir, not only, you're putting onto the planning board an issue of determination of the intensity of the non-conforming use, but under jurisdiction, planning boards can't hear D2 variances. Not only they can't. It's not within what they can do. The only board that has the right to hear a D2 variance is you. And the only way you can properly hear it is if you know what's going on the next lot. Because otherwise you're just making a guess. And I don't think the court wants you to make a guess. And it's not fair to ask it.
I'm the chair. I think I'm going to turn to my attorney for a moment to help us out. But before you say anything, I think Obi wants to say something.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
You keep saying that it wasn't approved, but from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, there was an approval for a hotel there by planning already, and there was an approval for a hotel there by the county. And then a judge was going to decide that the approvals were no good because of this parking situation.
We can't undo the approval.
No, we didn't take it from anything from parking. The township ordinance.
We can do
The town, and this is, tell me if I'm wrong, I get this wrong, Terry also was involved. The ordinance permitted motels. It was an oversight that didn't allow hotels. I mean, I don't want to attach to for a hotel. There's a hotel, and everyone with the idea that hotels were permitted. After the fact, after it was approved, before the whole process, you heard, they went to the county and everybody, Ron followed the field. One of the issues he raised was hotels were not a permitted use in the zone. And that's the reason why it started the whole thing. If they had said hotels and motels, Ron may have followed up on other issues, but that, I believe, was the main issue, that hotels were not in the zone, permitted in the zone.
So motels were?
Motels were, and there was a lot of back and forth with the township, went back, to put it back into the zone. There was an oversight when they wrote the ordinance many years ago.
Okay.
But Terry, put that back.
My understanding is that the ordinance was amended and now includes hotels.
Correct.
You could have just back then asked for a variance to build a hotel on that property when you were before us.
It was our understanding, though, again, that hotels were permitted. Everybody.
You used the M&H to have full documents. Not was walking to hotels, right away. But had you gone back then, that's the problem. The problem is, had you gone back then and said with a nice application of here's a car wash, here's a hotel, here's a shared driveway, then our zoning, then the resolution back then would have been applicable to everything. The problem is that back then we weren't talking about the hotel because we didn't think it had to come to us as wasn't before us, right? At all, because
We only know it was permitted, on the assumption it was permitted.
it's because of the history over here that we're stuck in this situation where this narrow issue now has to be resolved.
Can I?
Okay, so.
Can I just read if we haven't read the actual words of what the judge has ordered.
Go ahead.
Again, I'm just reading, I could just. Subdivision approval. Is the stipulation, correct, Mr. Johnson? Right? Subdivision approval is remanded to the zoning board for review of the filed subdivision map and board authorization resolution to allow the board to articulate whether the granted approval intensified the use of the certain lot, which includes the variance for the shared access easement. Said remand shall be conducted pursuant to MLE law. So again, we're back before this board just to ask the board if they understood that when they split the property in half, that they were, one, intensifying the property due to reducing a 3-point-some acre property down to a 1-point-some acre property. That's one. And two, there is a shared access. Now, if there was a one-room hotel, 50-room hotel, or not even a hotel, or something else, there would be, Rasmussen Board does acknowledge that there would be a intensification of that shared roadway and of the property. That's it.
Mr. Chair, if I may. If they have to come back in front of the board anyways, and they're saying that there really is no current approvals now, even though there were, and they got, why can't we just say, come back to us instead of the planning? And we'll decide.
We voted in the resolution that it goes back to planning board, so long as those are required.
But they're going to require you to.
It's a permitted use.
Yeah, but they still made a variance.
Okay. Al, go ahead, Al.
We approved this initially, that's the going solution, commercial entity, you're still on that on the lot.
Correct.
Does not know what it would be, we still don't know what it would be.
Correct.
And I think the judge is asking us to review what our approval was. We know what our approval was. I don't see what.
That's what I said before.
That's all they're asking.
The language you're saying is that we're not even supposed to be thinking about this anew. We're supposed to just go back in our memories and decide whether we consider this, whether our approval approved the intensification. That's what you're reading. So let's ask a question to our attorneys. If what we're trying to do is go back and remember what we approved before, then only those zoning members that were on that original resolution should get a vote.
Okay.
Am I right? That's a good point. Because I'm honest.
All right.
Now you just make trouble.
Okay. Do we have to open this to the public?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, please do.
And I don't know, I've been here many years, and we all sometimes misspeak, and I don't believe I'm misspeaking now, but when this matter was first approved for the car wash, which was many years ago, there's a comment, either in the resolution or in the minutes or wherever it may be, where the comment from the board member was, well, we're thankful it's a car wash, not a hotel. And when I go back to my office, I will find that and present it to you, because I know it's there. So if at that time, that was the concern, how can we be here this evening?
I think that's fair to say. I can't say that. Okay.
As far as I know, anything that came to rateables on this board was approved.
Correct.
Anything that came with grass and rateable,
We approved. Correct.
that's what I know, rateable.
Can I open the public appeal number 3935? If anyone wants to be heard, please step up.
Raise your hand, please. You swear to affirm the testimony that you was true. And your name and address. Should we go to the line?
189 Chateau Drive.
Your name, please?
Shlomo Klein. First of all, I want to say is that some members of the board, the mic doesn't work. You have to put it on, you have to make it push, the green light has to be on. Just the board. Okay, but when I mentioned it before, you kicked me over the days. It's your right to do it, you're the big boss chairman, but it was still not working. So the mic was not picking up on the live stream. She will have a problem afterwards listening to it, and so on. It seems like everybody agrees. It seems like everybody agrees that technically they could have come to this board now with an approval for a car wash and hotel, and you would have had jurisdiction to approve it. That's what everybody claimed over here. The question that I have is, why are they so afraid to come to this board for the hotel? You will give them a harder time than the planning board? Why are they so afraid of you? Something is wrong. Why they're looking to split and just do the hotel by the planning board? It's a compliment for you. Maybe it's not a compliment. It's a negative for the developer or the public. I don't know how it works. But something, like you say it in Yiddish, stinks. Now, I have a question for, there's two planners over here, so let's go first to the, are you asking for a waiver of sidewalks on this application? The question is, if the judge told you to come back to this board just for intensification purposes, what it does, or any waivers that you originally gave by this board for this application, you have to ask it for it again. So I'm asking the question is, on this application, are you asking for a waiver of sidewalks?
No.
So there is sidewalks over there, or you're not asking for it?
Not asking for it.
So that means, as my understanding is, there's no sidewalks, and therefore it is, because obviously you gave it the previous time, that this board, I must say, is very not good when it comes to sidewalks. Look around Lakewood. And as recently as the planning board is making sure that they don't give waivers, this board overlooks it, for whatever reason, I don't know. And it seems like the original application, when they came to subdivide, they had to ask for a waiver of sidewalks. Was it an existing car wash? Any time in Lakewood, when you subdivide a lot, when you subdivide a property, or you build 1,000 square feet building on it, you're required to put in sidewalks and curbs. But I'm talking about sidewalks. And the mayor of this town was very specific, is that it should be, even an industrial zone, should be sidewalks. The planning board now requires every applicant, even an industrial park, to put in sidewalks. We know people are getting killed over there, Route 70 in that corner. If you come and say is that we're not putting in sidewalks, looks bad. Now I have a few questions. No, cross-examination has nothing to do with the time of... What?
Nothing.
Do cross-examine, do it. And I'll make it short. Out of respect for the chairman. In your understanding, this ruling, does that... I'm asking this big dude over here.
Mr. Borden's name, Fran Siegel's her name, that's E and she.
Well...
He's not an attorney, so what's the question?
Well, I just asked your professional, I was pointing to him, and it looks like you're trying to intimidate me. You should learn by now is I don't get so easily intimidated.
Not intimidated.
So please relax. Take your sugar pills and relax and let me ask the professional the question.
5 minutes pause, so keep on going.
Okay. Question that I have for you, Mr. Professional. Could you technically come to this board for approval for the hotel and the car wash as of today? Thank you very much. That was easy.
Thank you. Anyone else on the public want to be heard? Seeing no one, close to the public. Just as a comment on the sidewalk issue that was just discussed, we're not here to rework the approval that was given. We're just here tonight to, for remand, if it's an intensification or not, the approval with and how the design stays as is. That's not what we're here for tonight.
May I please call back Mr. Borden?
Please do.
To address some of Mr. Gemma's comments. Mr. Borden, you heard the testimony of Mr. Gemma.
Yes.
Mr. Gemma, just reply and just...
Absolutely. First of all, not being an attorney, I will say that what I hear from Mr. Gabrowski is what he accuses us of every other day, which is forum shopping. forum shop. If you're in front of the zoning board, you belong in front of the planning board. If you're in front of the planning board, you belong in front of the zoning board. That's the game, we know that, that's what he does. I will read a paragraph from his own planner's expert who's not here. He presented to the court a planning.
And reference this application?
It's the report that created the remand. He hired a planner called Peter Stecky. He wrote a planning report. Dated April 3, 2018. Peter Steck, PP, license number 1776. It's a pretty cool number. And his summary planning conclusions are that the introduction of new traffic from the vacant lot 2256.02 on Car Wash, which is the hotel lot, on the Car Wash lot 256.01 constitutes an intensification of the non-conforming car wash use, triggers a D-variance necessitating jurisdiction by the Board of Adjustment. The language is the introduction of new traffic, not is it 10, is it 20, is it 30? You know, they're arguing that they want all the hotel testimony, which I can give you if you want. I don't think you want it, but I'm happy. No. I have it all written right here. No. I can tell you how many rooms and how many parking spaces and what IT manual says.
I have no paper.
I understand that. But his own planning report doesn't say necessary to understand the intensity of that use on the hotel lot is the introduction of new traffic. That's my argument is that's a de minimis expansion. Understanding that again, we're talking about a driveway, shared driveway of 1,200 square feet. It's about 30 feet. In other words, the driveway into the car wash is hundreds of feet long. We're sharing 30 feet.
162 feet.
That's just in the right of way.
Mm-hmm. Plus 50.
Right. So I think that's important. And as far as the just as a matter of record, what the board does, the board decides that's what you're there for. But as far as the hotel site plan on the new lot 256.02, it was argued by Mr. Gemma that the fact that that lot is undersized triggers the zoning board. That is simply not true in my opinion, because that is not, a hotel is a permitted use in the B5. A lot that is undersized is simply a C1 or C2 variance. It's not a B variance.
Go ahead, I was going to get you.
He doesn't let me cross-examine.
What? Yeah.
I just want to ask Terry and the attorney, in your opinion, is this something we can vote on tonight?
If you got all the testimony exhibits presented here tonight, and we'll make a decision on it, then yes.
I want to take this question a little further. And I want to understand what the judge, were you in the courtroom with the judge, or was Jerry? Jerry was there? Terry, were you in the courtroom? You weren't there either. I just want to understand.
Mr. Pepper, you know,
let me just get back. Okay. What are we, excuse me, we're working in it. I heard a lot of humble trouble last night about this, okay? We are here tonight reaffirming our initial and our first, That's the reason, that's what I'm trying to have our attorney for an answer. Are we looking at this, as a new, approval on the old application, or are we just re-examining that and we're just adjusting the application without having anything to do with what's coming, or do we have to take consideration of what's coming? Do you understand my question?
I do. I'm just, again, we'll read the language of the stipulation of settlement again, and that's the direction to the board. Whether the approval granted, so we've already granted approval. So it's a question of the board reviewing what's been granted and the issue of the intensification of the use of the car wash lot as it relates to the shared access easement. It's my understanding what the board is directed to do is solely limit its discussion on that issue alone. We're not discussing the hotel use, we're discussing.
That's where I want to go.
What we saw.
In other words, historical question of what we did in the past.
Yeah.
Correct.
Are we realizing that there is an identification?
Yes.
That's all it is.
And
Did we realize that?
Didn't realize that there is an
And with that
identification.
in mind, I would ask for a motion, and let's.
I make a motion
Go ahead.
to, you're done.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I make a motion to,
I have a question.
Yes, Roy.
Mr. Gordon spoke once again.
Talking to the
They're talking to the mic, they're talking to the mic.
Mr. Gordon came back and testified with regard to a report that was prepared by my planner, and as I listened to him, I didn't quite understand his point. I would like to see where in Mr. Stepp's report he was referring to.
So go ahead.
He didn't say it to me.
Exactly.
right, so get an attorney.
I can't help you, Roy.
You can help me, just tell him what he said. He testified.
It's on record, go to the judge and ask for a copy of it.
I would like to make a motion to acknowledge that we realize now our previous application of intensification of the driveway into the parking, car wash.
I second the motion.
I have a motion from Mayor, second from OB. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli.
Yes.
Mr. Halverson.
Yes.
Mr. Langley.
Yes.
Mr. Ingber.
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
I can't vote.
I can't vote yes,
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
And Mr. Halverson.
yes. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next.
What was the resolution?
The resolution was based on what the judge wrote to discuss what happened at the time of the subdivision, not at the time of the hotel, not at the time of anything, what did we subdivide at that point, and we expanded on that, on that resolution. And we gave the approval knowing that something's going to come there, and it'll create a little more of traffic. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, moving forward. What?
Hey, 4100.
4100, yes. Appeal number 4100.
New Hampshire Investments LLC. Yeah, from Terry Vogt, January 28, 2019. The applicant is seeking use permit relief in accordance with section 18-903M1 of the UDO to construct what is depicted as a two-story, including basement, 88,135 square foot retail building, parking, access, and amenities as illustrated on the variance plans. The architectural plans depict 20 retail units proposed within the building.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask you to hold on a minute? I must have something back for a moment, unless you just have some shopkeeping to do. Okay?
While we're waiting, Mr. Chairman, I make a recommendation. Maybe whoever talks in the audience, the application get thrown to the end of the evening. Or postponed automatically to next month, automatic denial. Something like that, this way.
But, you know,
We gotta do something, because the talking in the audience is very disturbing, and it's very selfish.
I agree with you. So therefore, I would please ask the public to please refrain from talking. If you have to say something, please step out to the outside. Go ahead, Adam. Oh, whoever's Adam. Madam Secretary. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Alan Pepper, the applicant. Again, I have Brian Flannery here, if I can have this one at this time.
You swear or affirm that the testimony that may is up there?
I do. Brian Flannery, Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer, professional planner. I have two exhibits. One is sheet 4, the land development plan. The plan submitted, and basically it shows the subject property on Cross Street with the proposed retail building. I marked that as A1. A2 is the aerial photo of the area, and I think the board is probably very familiar with this particular site. It's on Cross Street, on the westerly side of Cross Street, just south of the railroad tracks. If the board recalls, there was a application for a retail site on Cross Street at a prior application, and there was a comment that if it was on the south side of the railroad tracks, that's really where it's needed. This is in an M1 zone. I'd like to start out by reading some of the permitted uses in the M1 zone. There's a few pages of them. Lumber yards, warehouses, manufacturing, metalworks, airports, laundry cleaning, automobile assembly plants, manufacturing, public and private schools, office buildings, bottling plants, hotels and motels. We don't want to do a hotel because we'll have Mr. Gazarovski objection. Restaurants. So if you look at this particular property, it's particularly suited for a retail use. I know the board is in favor of rateables. This is certainly a good rateable. It's something that's needed. Cross Street has the traffic, so this would be picking up a lot of the people coming to this would be people that are already on Cross Street. It's going to provide shopping opportunities for any of the homes that are going up in this area, and the board should be familiar with them because a lot of the sites on the east side of Cross Street have been approved by the board for townhouses and duplexes, and any development on the west side, it also will provide shopping and employment opportunities. This is a bifurcated application. All we're here this evening for is asking for the use. If the board acts favorably on the use, we will come back here with fully designed plans. We'll show you how the engineering works, how the traffic works. We've conceptually shown where there's a truck access in the rear of the building, the parking for the pedestrians in the front. I should point out that there will be a traffic signal at the location of this facility. It was shown on a plan, a CAPRA application that was approved for the Eagle Ridge Golf Course. So that would be at the corner, and if the board acts favorably when we come back, we would have the details on Cross Street, on the southerly corner of this property.
The southerly corner of this property?
Yes.
The truck access?
Well, just south of the property, the property south of it is where the access to the development in Eagle Ridge. Yes. And again, if the board acts favorably on this application, when we come back, we would have those details. We'd have the details on the drainage, we'd have the details on the traffic. The board is familiar with where Prospect Street and Cross come together. That intersection has been helped a little bit recently, but more help is on the way. The county engineer provided an update on their two projects. They've broken down the improvement of Cross Street from Route 9 to Augusta Boulevard, which is the entrance to the Fairways Development and the View Club. And that's phase 1. And in January, the design was 60% done. They anticipate putting that out to bid this year and building it next year. The second phase goes from where that one stops all the way to Jackson Township, which was in January 30% design, and they expect that to be a few months behind the other one. So within a year or two, Cross Street will be widened to a 3-lane section that provides for a center turning lane and 1 lane in each direction, and the intersections would be designed as 5-lane geometry, which will provide for turning lanes at the intersections. And anybody that drives Cross Street knows that the traffic backs up during school times when somebody on Cross Street is trying to make a left-hand turn and he backs up everybody behind him until he gets a break in the light. With the turning lane in there, he would be out of the way and the through traffic to continue through. So if the board acts favorably on the application, we're going to come back with details that will show you what a benefit this will be, what a good rateable it would be. Looking at the justification for that, if we go to the 2017 master plan, the vision statement says to encourage growth and development in appropriate locations consistent with established land uses. And a retail center here for all the residential development that's occurring in the Prospect Core and the vicinity is certainly does that. Encourage development and redevelopment based on smart growth planning principles, such as a balanced mixed use of land uses, pedestrian-friendly and transit-oriented environments with a sense of place. This does that in that any development in the area, this will be in walking distance of them, and at a minimum, a short drive, so nobody has to go into Lakewood or out to Route 9 in order to do their shopping. The master plan also on page 23 under traffic and parking, it addresses the major issue that occurred during the master plan, which is traffic congestion. And it's not traffic flow that has everybody upset. Some people don't realize that they're not upset about traffic flow. They're upset about traffic congestion. Congestion is when you're trying to get somewhere and you're stopped in traffic. The improvements that the county has recognized they need to make will help with the traffic congestion, and this project, if the board acts favorably and we move forward with it, would have an impact fee associated with it to generate monies for Lakewood to provide for any of the improvements they need to do, as well as impact fees to the county, so that the county has money to improve Cross Street and other intersections in the area. On the same page, it talks about infill development. And this is an infill development to an extent in that most of the area around it is developed. You have a large vacant site of this size that will accommodate this and provide a good rateable in an area where it's appropriate, where it has no adverse impact on any of the surrounding people or residents. The municipal land use law, NJAC 40:55D2, under the purpose of the Act, is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses. And this provides those opportunities. This property is particularly well suited for this. And as I indicated at a prior application, it was the board itself that indicated that a location for that kind of services, because those services are certainly needed. The people traveling on Cross Street, if they want to do shopping, and I know what that's like because I live nearby there, that you have to drive into Jackson, you drive out to Route 9, or you drive into town. providing this there provides a convenience for them and a good rateable for the township. When we continue in Terry's report, he has questions relating to some of the features, and when we're asking for a use variance in this, we have to show the special reasons. The special reasons are what I indicated in the master plan and the municipal land use law, and then it falls into usually one of three categories. And in this particular case, it's promoting the general welfare. And this promotes the general welfare by providing that smart growth, by doing all the things that the master plan recommends. The testimony that Terry requested on page 3 of his report is with respect to the proposed architecture of the building, and we did submit an architectural plan. It'll be a very nice finish. Well, if the board acts favorably and we come back, again, people will know it's a zoning board project because they'll drive down the street and they'll see that the landscaping that's there is irrigated. The building has. Oh no! When we come back, there will be sidewalks. This is.
No. It's not about patient.
Well, there's a member of the public that feels that way, but I happen to know different. The uses, we don't know what the uses would be at this time. If the board agrees with my testimony that this is a good location for that there's special reasons, that it's particularly well suited, before we come back to this board, which we will have to come back for site plan approval, we will have an idea of the tenants. What we showed on there was smaller units, so that we know this location, the board would not think was good for a supermarket, so we're not going to come back with a supermarket. We're not going to come back with a supermarket. It's on the record, and I'm sure if I didn't say it first, somebody on the board would have said it, so I'm doing a preemptive strike. It'll be the kind of neighborhood uses that'll provide for the things that the local people could go into. As far as the adequacy of the parking, we will not ask for a parking variance. We will provide parking in accordance with the plan shows it, meeting the parking requirement. Certainly when we did a site plan, if the board acts favorably, we would not be asking for a parking variance. We would provide the required parking. Even though we do anticipate people walking in the area, we also know that in Lakewood, people when they shop, they're very aggressive, and we feel that the parking should be there. It'll be a benefit for the tenants in the building. It'll be a benefit for the public, and we wouldn't expect to get an approval if we were asking for a variance. So when you look at it in total, the parking will be more than adequate. As far as traffic impacts, if the board acts favorably, we will meet with the county. We will have specifics on all the various traffic impacts and what the county wants as far as this applicant to contribute and this applicant any of the construction that needs to be done, and also the sign details will be provided at that time. And we understand this project will require county approval, and the applicant will meet with the county and have those details before they come back with the site plan.
So, Brian, you know my spiel on shopping centers?
Yes.
Okay.
No shopping centers.
I didn't say no shopping centers.
No shopping centers in this location.
No.
There's shopping centers are needed.
Have to work.
Yes.
And it has to work a little further than just a regular shopping center.
Yes.
Okay. I see a beautiful blueprint over there. I'm not even going to open a look at it. Okay?
Yep.
The only reason why I think there should be a shopping center here, but it's got.
Yes.
There's a lot of housing up and down Prospect Street.
Yes.
A lot of traffic. There's housing developments created going up Williams, down to 9, down to Cross, coming all around.
Yep.
In my mind, if this would alleviate even 20% of that traffic, we've accomplished something in the neighborhood.
And a rateable for the township.
However, but it's got to work. Okay?
Yes.
When you come back, I'm going to look at it, we're going to see the traffic impact study, and we're going to see that that, it can't handle really the flow of the traffic properly, we might tell you, you can't cross Cross Street, left in or left out.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know that at this point.
Yes.
But these are the things that you have to focus. Truck circulations, gonna have to work. I see you started it over here, 28 feet in the back with a truck. I don't know if that's gonna work either.
Well, we will have the traffic documentation to.
You know, I see all this going on over here. If we can get a traffic signal right out on the Prospect and get the traffic going, it can go northwest, east, south traffic. That'd be great. But the only reason why I'm willing to entertain it at this point is because all those housing that's up against Cross Street, what is it about? Help me out. 1,000 homes coming up over there?
The crossing Prospect Core will probably be about 1,000 units.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And that is the only reason why and besides, much ratables.
Yes.
I'd like to add to what the chairman said. We would also, sidewalks, as Mr. Klein
Yes.
brings up, so
These are what number?
sidewalks, and also, are you dedicating space to be given over to the county?
Yes.
Widen the road?
Yes.
How much?
The county now has a required width of 86 feet. So that would be 43 feet on each side. So we're going to dedicate the additional. I thought it was shown on that. But whatever the county wants. It's 86 today, if by the time we get it done, because it just changed.
Approximately how much?
Well,
sure.
Actually,
Another 10 feet.
the 10 feet will go towards.
Widening up.
Additional road. Yes. Well, it's going to be set up that there's enough right of way for a center lane and 2 lanes in each direction. And then, in addition to that, room on the side for the sidewalk and some setbacks so that there's grass.
And that would prove it to us on site.
Yes.
But now, Brian, even if the county doesn't request it, we're going to request it.
To the chair?
Yes.
Well, the county will.
Okay.
Go ahead. Are you finished, Brian?
Yes.
Okay, now.
Well, right now, Cross Street's dangerous. During high density, there was an emergency vehicle, couldn't get through. My concern is, even with the center lane that's eminent, it's going to come, you're going to bring more traffic into this area that I think will negate that gain. And I see it just being more traffic and continue to be a danger. So the people have to shop someplace, but you're going to bring a lot of cars to Cross Street. Cross Street won't be able to handle it.
Well, if the board acts favorably on the application, when we come back, we'll have a traffic study to show traffic improvements that we're doing, traffic improvements that the county is doing, and showing that after development, because this isn't a development that's going to happen quickly. This is a development that's going to take a while. So that after development, the traffic will be improved and it'll be acceptable levels before the board would act favorably on the application. We know that we're going to need to show that to you. What we anticipate, and the traffic report would show it, is that a lot of the traffic to this is going to be vehicles that are already on the road. And a lot of the ones that the vehicles aren't all the way on the road, they're already shopping trips that somebody is going, driving from that area onto Cross Street already into town or out to Route 9 to do the shopping. This isn't going to bring people in from Jackson to shop in Lakewood. It's the people in Lakewood already that need to shop.
It's going to bring the 1,000 homes on Prospect onto Cross Street. That's not there now.
Well, the 1,000 homes that were in that triangle, they're going to shop somewhere.
I think, Brian, let me figure this out here, okay?
Yes.
We can approve, we're not giving you any, we'll give you use variance.
Correct.
No numbers.
No size, no numbers.
No numbers.
Right.
Now, when do you think this shopping center is going to get ready to build, and when in correlation to when Route 9 is going to be fixed? Because is this going to be before, after, or in between?
I would anticipate it'll be at least 2 years before they break ground here.
Why would be at least 2 years before they break ground?
2 years before any earth moving, any tree moving, anything.
Of the shopping center?
Of the shopping center, yes.
So what you're saying is based on your testimony before, that in 21, Route Cross Street will be fixed, and that's what I said before.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So then you don't have a problem, me telling you today, that if we approve this, will approve it based on knowing further where Cross Street,
Yes.
is up to, and if it's not being fixed, we'll give you a smaller center. If it is being fixed, we'll give you a little larger center.
The
Because I have the proof right there.
The applicant understands that when we come back, we have to show that we're not creating a problem. And the way we're not creating a problem is if improvements have been made or improvements would be required prior to COs on the building. And all that we can certainly work out when we come back with a site plan approval where we have more details if the board acts favorably on.
So you're not planning on bringing the site plan approval for another year?
I don't know that it's going to be a year before we bring the site plan approval, but it's going to be a lot of months. And then when we bring it.
Hold on, I got to spot the camera. Thank you.
That's all right.
Yeah, I like to spot. Go ahead.
When we bring the application, the application requires county approval, which in all likelihood will take 12 to 18 months. So even if we came back to this board in 6 months, it would be 2 years before we would have all our approvals.
But when you come in 6 months from now, will you be able to come in with a plan, a county plan to show
Yes,
us?
we're going to meet.
A signed county plan?
We're going to meet with the county. We're going to find out what the county's going to require.
That's just hearsay from the county. I want to see a
Yes.
physical plan.
Yes.
And that's how we'll base, and that's how we'll base our size of the building.
Yes,
Is that fair
absolutely.
enough?
Yes.
To the chair.
How does that help you? No.
Right.
It has to be a four-lane highway someday, that's the answer.
Cross Street at some point needs to be a 4-lane highway, but the problem with the congestion now is the intersections. And if the intersections are improved to 5-lane geometry, that's going to free up the capacity. I've sat in the traffic many times myself, I'm sure you have as well, and the reason you sit is because somebody trying to make a left turn. If somebody trying to make a left turn doesn't slow you down, there's enough capacity.
Frank, another quick question. You mentioned at the very, very beginning something about Eagle Ridge and traffic lights.
Yes.
Are you saying that the traffic light is coming only when Eagle Ridge is approved? Or you're hoping to get a traffic light if Eagle Ridge goes down and this gets approved?
We would have the details on when the traffic light can come, because before you get a traffic light, you have to meet the warrants of the NJDOT. So if the board acts favorably, we will have the details on the traffic light when we come back with that application.
But this is not contingent on making sure you have a traffic light.
Well, it's contingent on making sure we show that the size of the shopping center that we build is consistent with what impact it would have, so that we don't have a negative impact.
Just make sure, just to be clear, I'm not asking you to make it contingent. I just want
Right.
to understand what you said.
Yes.
You just said a lot of different things.
Yes.
Alluding
Yes.
to
Well,
traffic lights, Eagle
yes.
Ridge, and this thing. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I just want to remind the board that we just gave an approval for a commercial office to the north of this.
Mhm.
So now we're going to be having almost 100,000 square feet of retail office, so we might want to consider that with the final.
I know, I thought about it, but again, I'm going to consider on the final based on what I see and how Cross Street and what the improvements on Cross Street is working.
If we have the ability to say, you know, that it's really.
I want to open to the public.
Just to respond to that one point, Mike, I believe that other applications also only receive use variance application. So again, everybody's gonna still come back before this board to make sure it works. So again, depending on what finally gets approved there, what finally, if this passes this evening, will we come back to you? That's all gonna be part of the discussion, but just that you've already approved something, I mean, I have no idea what they're gonna come back with.
This is a key property because it is on the corner, so I would certainly, you know, go above and beyond.
Correct.
With the county, not just what they require, but what you can really do to justify that we, you know, giving the approvals and now you really enhance the neighborhood. I just.
Maybe 125% on the parking.
Yeah, and the parking is
Right.
overkill. I'm assuming this is a one-story building.
That's what we anticipated.
So it's not gonna come back and say we want offices on the second floor?
And then you have to come and say, what a banquet hall in the basement, or a shul on the fourth floor.
At least not the first.
4 peak hours, you know. Okay, I want to know to the public, anyone in the public want to be heard on 4100, please step up.
Mr.
this firm.
Hi, firm.
You're from what?
I'll leave it right there.
Thank you.
Brian, I have a question for you is, who is this LLC, New Hampshire Investment LLC, who are the principals on? Whom are you working for?
I'm working for the LLC. When the application was submitted, it indicated,
So you don't know whose individual you're working for?
Dynamic prepared the plans, Dynamic sent me the plan.
Mr. Chairman, an application was submitted with affidavits, if it's submitted to the board, we didn't complete, we'll rely on our application.
Okay, I'll tell you why I'm asking the question, and I got the fifth over here, they don't want to identify the LLC. I see over here an application coming for the board, and some board members are trying to push it to get it approved. And therefore I would like to know who the owner is over here, to know if there's any conflict of these board members, that I see some board members are trying to get it approved. Simple as that. When you have an application, when you have an applicant, and when you have the engineer, you have an attorney standing right next to it, and they're trying to hide who the owner is, this is alarming, this looks like something stinks over here. Next.
It was submitted with the application. If anybody that was interested could see, the sole member is Saul Mizrahi.
Now I got the answer.
You know the answer.
I did not.
It's the address.
I did not look at it.
Nobody's hiding anything when we submit what's required.
Next, another question. You said is that you'll give a waiver by it's determined, there was mentioned by the planning board that one of the zoning members was not able to go on the Eagle Ridge application due to conflict. I'd like to know which board member that was, is that if he has a conflict with Mizrahi over there, he should have a conflict with Mizrahi over here. Next. As far as the buffer, you said is that you're not going to ask for a waiver of the buffer of sidewalks, parking. Are you going to ask a waiver for the buffer and use that for parking? Buffer requirements.
We're not asking for a waiver for the buffer.
You won't ask. That's my question.
We're not asking.
Now you're not asking. I'm asking is if you're committing yourself, when you're coming back for the site plan, you're going to ask the same way that he's, okay. Got the answer. He's not asking now, but he's going to ask in the future.
What, next?
Next. Finally. We said there was a planning, I come together with a question. There was a master plan. Why didn't you come by the master plan or ask to change a zone that permits use variance for retail? Or why? You just did what he said. Mr. Kelly said this, and I'm asking an honest question. Unbelievable. You sit on the board, comes up some of the members of the public, and this is how he's being treated? I'm sorry for putting it, but you should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm sorry, he's talking about your question, not about you. Right? You repeated exactly what he said. Mr. Geller did not say anything against you.
Can we move on?
I'll move on.
Next.
I'll move on.
Next, move on.
The master plan, as far as what you could have recommended that should add use in M1, you could have recommended that this property should be changed. It's just ironic that we just passed a master plan. You're coming again and asking the zoning board to change. The zoning board should now be in a position to give undersized lots, decks, certain stuff is. Why is that, I'm finishing up, why is that you have an application coming for the board and asking for a use when you just had a master plan that, I'm not saying this is like a R12 changing to R15, that's ridiculous to come now for the board. I'm just asking, it is a use, but why didn't you recommend to change the zone or add use in the M1 like this lot is conforming? Do you understand the question?
I'm not sure I understand a lot of your questions or logic, but the municipal land use law is set up that if you have a piece of property that is particularly suited to that to have a use that's not a permitted use in the zone, you come to the zoning board. It doesn't say you only go and ask to have the master plan changed and then come in and do it that way. It's specifically set up that way because it makes sense. This is a particular piece of property, particularly well suited for the use, and it's appropriate to come to the zoning board to ask for it.
Good. Anyone else in the public want to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close to the public. Any final comments from board members or a motion?
Make a motion. Anybody else? Comments? No? I'll make a motion to approve with a reminder of some of the things that we're looking for. Usually Jerry helps us out, but maybe some board members can chime in.
Yes.
We are going to give the county space for expansion on the road, sidewalks, above and beyond on the parking. If the whole township ordinance says 100 spaces, you got to go a little higher. I'm not saying a number, but you can't be exactly what the township. Every other shopping plan says it's very dense. I think you need to go above and beyond whatever the parking is. Is there something else?
Yes. We have no size of the building. No.
We're not limiting our.
We will decide at the time.
Right.
How the street goes.
All parking spaces, size of the building, scope will be decided at the site.
I believe that there was discussion that the nature of the retail would be neighborhood uses.
Neighborhood, no.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes.
Terry?
Thanks, Terry.
A note that you already mentioned on the record, no supermarkets, mom and pop type stores. Great. Okay. We want, it's a busy corner and a hard corner, and we're going to come down that you guys are going to actually make this a good corner. Okay.
I have a motion from Monish Langkry. Can I have a second? Second, Mayor Gelli. Madam Secretary?
Mr. Gelli?
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
No.
Mr. Langford?
Yes.
Mr. Ingber?
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
Yes. Good night and good luck. Thank you. We're going to be taking a 10-minute break. When we come back, we will take appeal number, what's the name of the number, guys? 4102. That is Brook Burnside LLC.
The application that's not being required is 4109. I was in the office. So for, there's 5 lines. They go through the first 2 reports. We're doing brokers on this. I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you better. That's right, I'll take a look at it tomorrow. So you have that one, and then like 3 or 2.
I don't know.
They had a guy, something as the chair, but he wasn't a real deal.
Appeal number 404102, Burnside LLC. We have two members that will pay us for this application. And therefore, I have Steve member, Ali just came back from something in Australia and first vehicle. We want to wish him all the and with that, we're gonna move forward. Go ahead. Yes.
4102 Burnside LLC, Burnside Avenue, blocks 199, 200, 201, and 202, R15 zone. Use variance to allow single-family homes with the R10 requirements. From Terry Vogt, engineer planner, this is from January. The applicant requests bifurcated use, density variance, relief to necessary to construct up to 34 single-family lots within the R15 single-family residential zone. One proposed lot, number 34, as illustrated as containing a rectangular footprint with 4 off-street parking spaces.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Adam Pemberton, the applicant. Before we get started, just for the record, I said, since we're only having 6 members this evening, we would like to put forward our testimony, as is our right, and then ask the board to have a 7th member listen to the tape, and we'll come back at the next meeting for a vote. As is the board, that's the board policy. We are fine moving forward this evening under those guidelines.
Okay. So please proceed.
This time I can call in Mr. Flannery.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Before Mr. Pepper proceeds, my name is Susan Maria. I'm an attorney. I represent this Kupferwasser at 16 Getham Drive.
You represent?
Mr. Kupferwasser?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And who's Mr. Kupferwasser? Okay.
Kupferwasser, sorry.
And the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole neighborhood have each of your names, if you don't mind.
I don't represent anyone but him.
Okay, just okay.
No, I don't represent the whole thing.
Okay, fine.
I don't know what the matter is. I do not think that the notice of this hearing that was given is valid. There is enough to confer jurisdiction on the board. As the board knows, the statute requires that the notice advise the public of the nature of the matters to be considered, and it has to be in language that an ordinary layman can understand. It can't be the way it's construed by somebody who is, familiar with technicalities, planner, a lawyer. And the variance has to be clearly stated. It has to be specific. The purpose of it is to give the reader an understanding of whether or not they should participate. It can't be general. It's got to identify the relief this application is asking for from this board at this hearing. And this notice does not do that. It refers to the applicant seeking relief to develop these proposed lots in accordance with the R10 zoning requirements. That is not sufficient for a member of the public to identify what this application is about. The people who are on this side of the bar here all understand what that means, but the common person looking at that is not going to. And the variances that are needed, it's a density variance. That's what it is. It's a D5 variance. That's nowhere in the notice. Just, develop R10 as R15 as R10 doesn't convey the nature of the application. And that's.
Is there any other deficiencies on this notice that you would like to bring up that we'll discuss in further time?
I think the use of the word bifurcated is confusing to the public. But I think that is, that is the primary problem, is it does not identify the relief that's being sought, and it does in language that can be understood by an ordinary person.
Okay. Our attorney to help you out if you want that for you. And you, I don't know if you are aware, but this is an language I believe that's been, I don't know if this has.
No, I understand. There are a bit.
So, somebody that's just moved to town, I would agree with you. But I believe most people know what R10 is, and they do know where they have to go to get the answers for it. But we'll leave that as a main, and I'll turn to our attorney for a final consideration of that.
I do understand it's standard language, but what this comes down to is how are you identifying the relief, and is it sufficient?
I understand.
Okay.
And that's just, I just wanted to ask you maybe, because I'm very used to it, so I look at it that way. But I know that most people in town know what R10 is, and if not, they know who to call to get that information. It's a very, everyone knows everything there. But I'll turn to our attorney.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the notice provides applicant is seeking bifurcated use variance approval to construct up to 34 single-family homes within the R15 zone. Applicant is seeking relief to develop these proposed lots in accordance with R10 zoning requirements. Further, it has the standard language that the application maps supporting documents are on file for interested public to review. Looks sufficient to me in accordance with the municipal language law.
You're our attorney?
Yes.
You're going to tell me yes or no with that?
Yes.
And if it's yes, we'll proceed.
It's my opinion that sufficient notice wasn't provided.
Okay. So we will proceed. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Adam? You want to renotice? Make it what happened? It's up to you now. I'm ready to proceed. Our attorney said we can proceed. You decide.
Abundance of caution, I will renotice.
You got my vote? Okay? If that's the case, we will then table the application, and you will renotice it. All we did was, postpone it for another month.
Can we notice it?
Okay. Are you okay with that? He decided on that.
That's up to the applicant and his counsel as to whether to proceed tonight. Again, it's an abundance of caution. It doesn't hurt to renotice. I'm not sure how much more specific you can do.
I agree, but we, abundance of caution, we're going to renotice.
That's fine. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Can I have it? Can I have it? Guys, one second, please. What number is it? 4102. Adam, stop one second. You're going to be on May's meeting, and you'll renotice on time without presenting any further plans or evidence.
Just renoticing?
Fine. Excellent. Good. When is the next meeting?
May 6th.
May 6th, okay. Well, we don't need tomorrow. Be all good. May 6th, can I have a motion, Carrie, to make a motion to do the Lakewood notice? Motion by, Mayor Gelli, second by Woody Gross. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli?
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
Yes.
Mr. Naftali's here.
Yes.
Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
Yes. Anyone that's here in this courtroom for appeal number 4102, Brooke Burnside, please note that it'll be heard on May 6th.
With renotice.
With renotice and with the waiver. Okay, good night and good luck then. We're going to move forward. What? Moisha's coming back. Moisha's coming back? Come back? Okay. We're going to move ahead. Appeal number 4104, Mordecai Eichhorn, 12 Sylvan Court. Just for the record, my chamber's back on the dais.
What, lot 411, lot 13, R10A zone, to construct a single
I'd like to
family
everyone
home.
to please exit quietly. Everyone, please exit quietly. Thank you.
Variance is requested. Terry Vogt, engineer planner, February 11th, 2019. Applicant seeking new bulk variance within the side yard and the aggregate side yard setback to construct a new dwelling. Applicant is seeking approval to redevelop an existing single-family residential property with a new two-story home with basement. As depicted, 2 sheds will be made.
Yes, hi.
Raise your hand, please. Do you affirm that the testimony that you give is
Yes, I do.
And your name and address for the record.
Mordecai Eichhorn, 8 Avion Court, Lakewood, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Okay, so I put together a little bit of a quick little map just to show the background over here of the neighborhood. It's an R10A zone, and this area, the majority of it is, the majority of this particular area is either duplexes or schools or shuls. The area basically goes, the whole R10A zone is pretty much from here till here.
What street is that?
This is William Street. This is the north side of Sylvan Court. This is the south side of Sylvan Court. And this whole area is Majestic Way, which is now considered Sunset Grove. So the majority of this area is Sunset Grove, is all duplexes. Everything depicted in pink, including these 2 lots over here, are all duplexes, except for this 1802, which is a single family lot. 6, 70, and 7, these 3 single family lots now became duplexes. So there's 2 duplexes here instead of 3 single family lots. This is a school.
Well, 1 second, Woody, I'm sorry to interrupt you. They became, or they are single families, but the lot became.
These are built.
By variance change, by zone change.
Their R10A allows for duplexes.
So there are no duplexes there now?
They are, they're built.
They are? Oh, okay, that's all I'm making sure. Okay.
These duplexes are built already. There's right now 2 duplexes side by side. Here, this is under construction, so it's in the middle of being built. Some of them are up and some of them are not yet. And this is the shul of the neighborhood. So, just the reason why I'm showing this is because the whole area, which is depicted in pink, all these areas, this is all either duplexes or there's 1 single lot here. These are all 7.5 wide side setbacks. So, not only are they duplexes, they also have the R10A, which normally calls for a 10 and a 15, aggregate of 25, but they all have the precedent of 7.5 or 7.75 wide side setbacks. These also have 7-foot side setbacks. And what I'm asking over here for is on the single family lot, which is the yellow, it's a 50 by 200. I want it actually to stay as a single-family lot, if possible. For now. No, but I want it to stay as a single-family lot. Anyway, so with that being said, being as a 50-foot wide lot in our R10A zone, it meets the requirement of a 10,000 square foot lot. However, being that it's only a 50-foot wide, it makes it very difficult to be able to build a single-family house. So as a result of that, that's what I'm coming in here for. We had it on someone approached me to purchase this property to build their own single-family house over here, but they would only purchase it with the condition that it's a 35-foot wide house. Otherwise, it's a little bit hard to build a single-family house a little narrower than 35 feet wide.
I can't believe that you wouldn't be able to sell it otherwise.
It's possible. I can't say it's impossible.
No, real estate
but
broker like yourself.
I guess they're overestimating my abilities. Obviously, but 35-foot wide house is a much more desirable, width in terms of. That's what I'm here today for, is to ask for a 7.5-foot wide setback, which is an aggregate of 15, which very much fits into this neighborhood. And first of all, this particular lot is a non-conforming single-family lot in terms of side setbacks. Even as existing, on one side it's 9 foot, and the other side I think it's 9.6 feet. So as it is, it's kind of already non-conforming. And the same applies to almost every house besides for lot 17 and lot 10 on this block, and lot 71. They're all the lots that are on 50s, all have existing non-conforming side setbacks because of the narrowness of those particular lots. Throughout the whole block, anywhere. The range, anywhere between 7 and 9, I think that's probably the average.
Okay.
But I can't say 1,000% because I didn't do any survey work on the rest of the block.
Is there an existing house on there?
Yes, there is.
An old house?
Old, it's like 700-800 square feet. It's like a small little bungalow. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it would be an advantage to have a nicer home built on the block, especially a newer home and a nice size home. So that's what I'm here for today, is to, number one, there's a variance in terms of the width of this lot. It's only a 50-foot wide. But that you see on the rest of this block, lot 8, lot 76, 75, 74, 16, and 72. This block seems like that's how it was cut up initially, as 50-foot wide. And then in terms of the side setbacks, I'm asking, based on, it seems like it would fit into the rest of the overall impression of the neighborhood, being that so many of these lots all are already at either 7-foot wide side setbacks or at 7.5. And that's when you have a single. The duplexes only have 7 on one side, and the other side they have nothing. So this kind of has a little bit something nice about it. They'll actually have 15 in aggregate, and it'll be a single-family lot, a single-family house on that block.
The houses on either side, are they newer houses?
Old.
So we don't know yet what's coming there.
Correct. But there's
newer houses on the block.
Yeah, those are either side. All the newer houses are all duplexes for now.
Okay.
The house next door on the left side is an older woman. She's actually a police officer. Her name is Mrs. Bresson. I think she's a police officer in town. His mom, and she looks like, and hopefully she does. She lives to 120, but she's been living there for a lot of years, and she's very happy to stay there for as long as she can.
Okay.
Now there was some of the, I just wanted to I'm not sure if the time's now, but I just wanted to point out on some of the comments that Terry had. On one particular point, he mentioned about the coverage, that it's only 30% coverage. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that there was at one point an ordinance that was passed in 2016, 2016-34, that the R10A maximum building coverage was changed from 30% to 35%. So I'll be asking if I can maintain that same ordinance and have a 35% coverage. And there was one other point here mentioned about the contradiction or the differences between the plans that were shown, the architectural plans that were shown versus the actual zoning map that was shown. Our intention over here would be is to build as much as we can with the side setbacks of 7.5 and 7.5 if possible. I know there's a 30-foot setback in the front and a 20-foot rear setback, so that would technically give us an ability to build 35 by 150. Obviously, we're not going to build that big, but we're looking for as much as we possibly can, whatever the intentions of the buyer would be.
I'm confused. 30-foot front yard setback you're okay with?
Yeah.
Okay, so 20-foot you're okay with in the back?
Correct.
So then, I don't understand what you're asking for.
No, it was just mentioned.
Lot coverage.
Yeah, lot coverage 35%, that's all.
35%.
Was that on the application?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was
There
meant.
is a discrepancy, Chairman, between the use variance plot and the architectural plan. That's what's referenced in the letter.
Mm-hmm. You have about, what is it, 50 feet to the back? 50, 60 feet from the back of the house to the property line?
Yeah, we have plenty of room. I mean, we have a footprint technically of 35 by 150. We're not using even close to that.
35 by 150 gives you way over 34%.
Correct. So obviously we stick up to 35%.
If you were to stick to 34%, where would you be? 35 by what? Or
35% of 10,000 would be a 3,500 square foot footprint.
No, I know that, but if you would say 30%, and you want to say 35 foot width, how deep can you build a house?
Again, if I want to stay at 35%, 35 by 100.
35 by 100.
Would be 35, would be 30, 3,500, yeah.
It would be 3,500. And this house is now 35 by...
We have no idea what the potential buyer is going to build, but the architectural plans that we showed was just a plan that Mr. Fromm would show us from BF Design of a practical house that could be built. So that's a much smaller house. I want to be restricted to a small footprint if possible.
So right now you're 35 by 48.
Correct. Okay. So we would like to be unrestricted to 35 by 42 if possible.
Okay. Got it.
Question, Chairman. The building coverage is going to be 30% or less, correct?
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
You're not looking at your mind.
The building coverage is going to be 30% or less.
Well, that's what I was just pointing out.
I want the 34 or more.
I was just pointing out that it's 30. That the ordinance allows up to 35% on R10A.
Is that correct, Frank? Okay.
What
we have in front of us is a 30% maximum on the plan.
Correct. You showed us a plan of 35 by 45.
I just want to make sure that if the impervious...
The ordinance.
The ordinance allows 35?
That's what he said. He's got the ordinance.
That's his ordinance.
Okay. This is 2016-34, where it was amended for the residential zone R10A. According to this ordinance, which was adopted August 18, 2016, it was increased to 35%. So that 35% appears to be the limit then.
Right. So then you go to 35.
You can go up to 35% according to ordinance 2016-34.
Right. So help me out here. So technically he can build over here 35 is not the side that setback variance. He can build 35 by 100 times 2 floors.
Correct. That's correct.
7,500 square foot. 7,000 square foot home on this lot.
That would be correct.
It's not going to be the first time, though, mate.
You got the attic, is that the story?
Yeah, and I've had the basement. I don't know how many stories the basement will go.
Yeah, obviously that's not the intention over here, but it's possible, right? Yeah, that's true.
Okay, guys, whatever you guys want to do. Anyone in the public want to be heard? Please step up. 4104. Please step up.
Affirm.
What?
Previously sworn.
This application is somebody, Mr. Ihorn. I know this individual many, many years. He's a real mensch. The reason why I'm bringing this up is he didn't put as an application on the LLC to hide behind a veil, then it didn't cost him attorney fees. He comes like a mensch, this is me, I'm coming up, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm making, this is what I'm building. He comes up like a mensch, he doesn't lie, he just says the stuff the way it is. He's an example how people should apply for applications and present applications, and kudos to him.
And he's an example for how objectors and public should behave too. And kudos to him. Thank you.
No comment.
Anyone want to say something, or a motion, or whatever? Oh, yeah, close the public. I see, close the public.
I would like to make a few comments. First I thought that this was the house you were going to build, but now you're mentioning on the record that you're not. I had some issues with this house because it has two entrances to the basement, and it also has a stairway on the side that's continuous to the attic, which the board never likes.
No problem.
So
that was not mentioned. You can
what
totally
is-
restrict that. I didn't notice that, but
Yeah.
we'll put that in the motion. That's no problem.
Plan that we're looking at now.
Mm-hmm.
When you move in the side door.
We're gonna, one entrance to the basement.
By the way, Maish, this house is not going to be 35 by 45, it's going to be very much 100, because he wants to stick to the 35%.
Right.
In order to get to the 35% and be within the 7.5 side and setback that he's asking, the house could be 100 feet long. Okay,
Right.
so there might not be an entrance to the basement on the side.
Maybe we should restrict it to an entrance and to that.
Wherever you want.
Because what they do is they.
Just look at it, just look at it. One entrance regardless.
Well, if the house is that deep, then a lot of times they'll do a side entrance and then they'll stack two basements. So you come down and you go to the right or the left and you have a big basement. So maybe it's worth doing one entrance into the front and no continuous stairs to the attic.
If your idea is to restrict somebody from making two apartments in the basement,
Yeah.
making one door is not enough. And it's going to be dangerous having one door if your house is 100 feet long. So everybody knows the law is that one apartment in the basement. If somebody wants to defy the law, they'll defy it, but I wouldn't restrict the house to one.
Mayor, everyone knows the law, everyone knows what they do.
Right. But he's not going to save it.
Doesn't the board always ask for one entrance to the basement?
Whatever it is.
Because it's not.
It's not going to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, but not to the attic.
Yeah, no, that thing I 100% agree, no question about it, but you can have a apartment basement, and the owner of the upstairs can also have part of the basement himself. Right. He wants to get out of the basement without going through the bathroom.
You can have internal.
So you can have straight out, why not?
But I think we should, as a precedent here, that we can always let one door. You'll figure out how to make it work with one door.
It's a shame.
Okay, maybe you have another door in the back.
Listen, with 100 foot, within 100 foot.
I remember, guys, I remember the good old days, we used to try, well, you might remember this. In the good old days, we even decided once to control this illegal, this second apartment basement with balcony doors in the back. Guys, you remember that? You remember that?
I just want to point out that we have a new attorney, if you're not familiar with the lane we operate, so maybe we should.
Go ahead, go for it.
So usually what we do is when we approve a home unit, it should be 1/3 stone, there should be irrigation in the front, and landscaping, right? Okay.
And to the attic in the center of the house.
And then if the attic will be finished, it will be only from the center of the house, not from a continuous set of stairs on the side of the house.
Inside there.
From inside, all right. From the interior of the home.
it's fine. The only one point I just want to ask is that the two doors, sometimes you have, I'm okay with not front and side, but sometimes you have on the side itself, you have sometimes the people going upstairs. They actually enter in the same platform almost, but they have like a little door separating between the two of them, and the doors are like within 3 feet apart. But one person walks down, one person goes up. That's okay.
Yeah, it's just that set of stairs shouldn't continue to the attic.
No, I'm talking about the two doors you mentioned, the basement. That you should have two doors. They're side by side. They're
Outside
technically
the doors. He's referring to outside the doors.
That's what I'm saying. They do. They have two doors on the outside, so they don't enter in the same door. They do
They
is
don't
the
have a
people
front.
going up, no, there's no entrance in this, in the
Right,
front.
a single entrance to the basement.
Oh, it's the entrance to the basement, oh, fine.
From anywhere in the house.
That's fine. That second door shouldn't bring you down to the basement, you don't put down another entrance way, like it's going 10 feet down, another entrance to the basement.
That's fine.
Okay, is everyone okay? Anyone have any questions? Okay, can I have a motion? Is that a motion?
Yes, motion.
Okay, so we got a motion.
I'll say.
We go second. Madam Secretary, roll call please.
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Gelli?
Yes.
Mr. Naftali?
Yes.
Mr. Naftali? Mr. Ingber? Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
Yes, good night and good luck, Marty.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. What?
Oh,
4106 Orange Blue Holding LLC.
The applicant is seeking use variance relief in accordance with section 18-903M of the UDO to construct a two-story, 17,208 square foot mixed-use retail office building, parking, access, and amenities as illustrated on the variance plan. As illustrated on the variance plan, the first floor is identified as retail use, and the second floor is identified as office use.
Yeah, we'll approve for existing.
Good evening,
Full existing plan.
Mr. Chairman, Adam Travers, on behalf of the applicant. Brian Flannery here, if I can have him sworn in, and from our exhibits.
Mr. Flannery, and if we have you sworn, swear and affirm testimony you have to give, Mr. Chief.
I do. Brian Flannery, Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer and professional planner. I marked 3 exhibits. A1 is a copy of the tax map showing the subject property in orange. A2 is an aerial exhibit showing the subject property in the middle of the prospect across the triangle. A3 is a rendered copy of the plan showing in the center of it the proposed retail with the approved duplex development around it. If you look at A1, and I'm sure the board's familiar with this part of the crossing prospect triangle because we've got a lot of applications that have come in. First, they came in for the 2007 master plan, and then they came in for a smart road plan, and requesting multifamily in the M1 zone. The entire triangle piece that you see is all the M1 zone. As indicated near the corner is the existing office building. Next to it is an existing office building. You have a long cross street. You have a shul and another office. Off of Prospect Street, starting from the corner, you have an approved duplex development right next to the office building. It's a big, almost like horseshoe-shaped property with another approved 75 unit that hasn't been started yet. That will surround this entire property. Then you have a smaller approved duplex development, and then you have the townhouse development that's under construction. So this is an infill lot. It's 1 acre that's in among all these houses, and we're proposing retail. It would be neighborhood retail. The building certainly isn't big enough for a grocery store, and we would understand it would not be a grocery store. We're looking for something that all these houses that are around it would be close enough that they could even walk to. Looking at the first thing I'd like to read you is this is in the M1 zone. So the M1 zone permits research and development, lumberyards, warehouses, manufacturing, metalwork, airports, laundry, auto assembly plants.
Just to interrupt you for a minute, wishing master leave. So you're going to be that.
Well, we could ask that you listen to the tape and do a vote at the next meeting.
abstain?
I mean, we're six, we're seven, zero, six, what do you want?
I'll stay for a few more minutes, I just have a list. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
So, I'll speed it up. None of the uses in the M1 don't make any sense there. What makes sense there is what we provided. The vision statement from the 2007 master plan is encouraged development and redevelopment. There's an existing house there now, an old house that. Yes, the bifurcated applications. The master plan strategies indicate encourage redevelopment of existing underutilized sites. This is definitely that. Encourage compact cluster community design, which is what this does when you put a retail use in the middle of it. It talks about the same traffic congestion and infill that I spoke about before. One thing different about this that I'd like to point out is this area is in an overlay land use district that was approved by the planning board and adopted by the township committee. And if the site was 3 acres, where this was part of the townhouses, it would be a permitted use. The site has to be 3 acres in order to qualify that, and it's got to be mixed retail and residential. We don't have mixed retail and residential. We just have the retail that goes with the residential that already is there. It's called a Cross and Prospect Street 4. The purpose of that land use district is to permit a mixture of residential, commercial, and public uses in order to implement the recommendations of the 2013 master plan. So this is doing what the master plan said. This is doing what it is. It's providing a small retail site. The municipal land use law, JA 40:55(2) under the purpose of the act, encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use and development of all lands of the state in a manner with promotion of health, safety, morals, and general welfare. This does this. The site is particularly suited for that. The special reasons are all met by the master plan. It's on Prospect Street, which would certainly be helpful here. I remember one application where somebody wanted to do it across the street, and the chairman said if it was on the other side of the street, it would be ideally located. We'll go back to the one that's ideally located.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you?
Oh, I gotta put my glasses.
Mr. Flannery, I can't really see from the drawing that you depicted, but around around the site, the bottom of it, are you going to put like trees or a fence or something because you're back here?
Yes, well, the rear of it.
Right. You can show them.
The rear of it goes to an open space, and certainly we would do a fence and landscaping in the other areas. But this is an open space lot, so that's why we oriented it in that fashion, so that it's not in anybody's backyard. Along here we have parking, we have a fence and landscaping, and we provide all those details if the board acts favorably.
And you're asking for relief on the parking also?
No.
So you'll have sufficient parking?
We will have sufficient parking.
Well, we don't know. We're not giving you a number. We don't know. No.
Well, we're not looking for a parking variance. Let's be clear.
We're not giving you a number.
This is just for use.
Square footage or anything. You got to prove to us that it works and it runs. I see how this is flowing. I looked at it already. You know how I am on retail. It's got to work and it's got to flow. 14 feet in the back is kind of tight for a truck to roll around back there. I'm telling you that. Okay?
In any event, whatever we come with will not contain a parking variance.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a quick question? Are these lots, they're not built yet, right?
That is correct.
Well, they broke ground.
They broke ground. Are they sold?
Well, they can't be sold because the map isn't filed. We don't have county approval yet. Remember in the last application I told you it takes 2 years to get county approval? Well, you can get approval here prior to the county approval.
So when you gave notice, none of these future buyers know about this?
To the best of my knowledge, this is not marketed yet to buyers. There are no buyers. You know this property?
Yeah.
All the houses around, yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, it is not on the market, as indicated, the map's not filed, and we're at the county finishing up.
Is it a related party, whoever's building that, with this?
No.
I'm saying we can't really tell them that to notify the buyers to take away Mr. Gill's concern.
Morty, when you weren't here,
they came up with the approval for that piece, I was pushing them to buy that little piece. And
In the middle.
all the different excuses we got, why we can't buy this little piece. So we left it alone.
Was this one of the excuses?
It was one of the excuses that the chairman said that it's better if you put the shop to the other side, so you want to keep it. So-
Okay.
That's right.
Well, we could certainly provide notification to that other applicant, so that they have full disclosure that they have to make to the buyers.
Just like for the abundance of caution.
Yes.
We shouldn't have all these people come back, my
Yes.
porch, my this, my that.
Yes.
I think we once had an application where it was, the houses were under contract and they had disclosed.
The porches.
When we were changing lot sizes and stuff.
That's correct.
My comment, Mr. Chair, is that it's smack in the middle of retail, so not that I have an issue with the use, but to me, I really want to see a building that's not too, I don't know how to, excessive. It's like, it shouldn't be overbearing. It shouldn't tower all the houses that are there. I think a second floor office is pushing it. I think retail to accommodate maybe the locals might work, but a second floor retail is already kind of pushing it.
Like a nice thatched roof, non-story type of thing.
Well,
It's going to make it.
We would certainly, if the board acts favorably, when we come back, we would have architecture that would blend in with the area and something that we could show the board. And to Mr. Ingbert's comment, maybe we could reduce some of the upstairs area, so.
Definitely, I would say no upstairs, but definitely reduce it and try to blend it in to make it look
Yeah,
like.
well, architecturally, we would have it.
Yeah.
So that it
Well,
fits.
Moshe's concern is, it doesn't look like a square box.
Yes.
Like you go to Shrewsbury or Red Bank, you have these cathedral style off stores and old fashioned looking buildings. That's probably what it's concerned. More flows and blends in there.
I mean, Mayor brought up a good point. Really, all these people are going to be shell-shocked when they figure out that their commercial building is going in their backyard. So it should really be an eye-pleasant type of, building.
Yep.
I believe the one that came in front of us had this weird-looking structure design that was further down, which you mentioned that was on the other side of the
Right.
train. So it's very, in your face type of thing. So just be conscious of that.
Yes.
If you're,
Okay. Did I have this for public? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Oh, I didn't. No, I didn't, Mr. Finance. Okay, I'll open to the public appeal number 4106, Orange Pool Holdings LLC. Anyone in the public, please step up.
Yeah, Brian, who is Orange Pool Holdings LLC?
I deal with Aaron Weinstein.
Aaron Weinstein, so most probably the owner. Because you said before there's two different owners, so obviously there's no owner of this property.
Well, I deal with Aaron Weinstein on this property, who had nothing to do with.
I understand. Okay, just one more question that I have. It seems like the zoning board is disregarding the M1 and just putting the use of retail when you should have done it by the master plan, but let's not.
What's not with the master plan?
So why are you here?
If this was together, it would be conforming.
Oh, got you. Thank
The
you.
master
Yep.
plan does want mixed use here.
Got you. If they would have come and as one owner, you would have been able to get residential and mixed uses, and therefore you would have been by the planning board. Just as far as retail, I keep on mentioning over here, I know is that, if you're going to sell this to Hasidim and you're going to have a grocery store as retail, I understand that you have people walking distance going to the grocery store, but obviously that's not the retail that is proposed over here. What type of retail is there that the people in the neighborhood will constantly use it and not bring traffic from the outside? More
Well,
as
it's small shops, and it would be.
Like what type of
a pizza
retail?
store, not as good as the pizza you get down here, in downtown. But it would be, a small convenience store, some of the things that the Hasidic women would walk to, so that they,
So I keep on hearing from the board, even though they're not listening, one word that I'm saying, and the Germans didn't know that I was here already, or not, he was so mixed up, and that means that he's not even listening. But as far as shopping center, is a grocery store, a small grocery store permitted over here, or they don't want shopping centers over
They
here?
don't want a grocery store because a grocery store brings in a lot of traffic and a lot of volume that.
Let me correct you that, since I was listening. We don't want a box store which creates a lot of traffic. Small little shops is fine, because even though it might create a lot of traffic, but at least it'll create traffic for servicing of multi-functions.
What is like with a small grocery store?
Like cleaners, a little bodega, macholet, as we call it in Hebrew, a shoe store, barber shop.
It's permitted in the
You know,
zones.
shoe repair, pizza place, stuff like that, pharmacy, but not a growing lot, not an everything.
A small grocery store like Superstore?
You know, if it fits in within the size of the store that they have, 1,500 square feet, the 2,000 square feet, that'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
But it doesn't mean we won't change our mind by the second.
But if you do, I'll remind you.
Yeah. Okay, we'll close to the public, seeing none. Can I have a motion and a vote? For final comments, I should say. Yes.
I'm going to make a motion for some final comments.
Excuse me?
I'll make a motion to approve some final comments.
Okay. I have a motion from Modi Gross. Remember, Modi use.
Only the use.
Only use, no numbers, nothing.
Everything's on the table.
Everything's open on the table. Okay, I have a motion from Modi Gross. Second. Second from Modi Gonzalez. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gillig?
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
Yes.
Mr. Naftali?
Yes.
Mr. Ingber? Mr. Gross?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Halverson?
Yes, good night, good luck. Can I have minutes, the resolutions from last month?
What about
the sign? No. The sign? No, that's been tabled. The wall, not the sign, it was a wall. The fence. The fence, yeah. It's another version of the trunk wall. Before we voted out, we only red hats. Sherry, good job. Next time when the wall comes up, I need red hats. Everyone.
Mr. Chairman, Lendinsky did not advertise properly.
Come on.
That was the last application, Lendinsky did not advertise.
Okay.
He put it in the newspaper, but did not notify his neighbors.
Got it. Okay, whatever. Larry, can we have sheriff hats? Is that a red hat?
Sheriff.
Okay, so bring a sheriff hat.
Usual sheriff hat.
Okay.
I'll make
a motion to pay the bills. Can I have a motion to pay the bills? All in favor? Can I have a motion to apply with resolutions? Aye. All, actually, ordinance, I can't, I'll comment.
Can I have a motion for resolutions? Aye.
Motion to close tonight's meeting?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Go back to the big boss, you got one.
You found out Jerry said that. Jerry, stay home.
You're not looking forward to believe.
That's what I wanted to get back to the second. Terry,
Thank you, nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you all.
Very nice.
Yeah. I see a lot. Close game. Don't catch it, me. I'll keep on the next 2 minutes. How long? Yep, a little bit of a drive. Bit of a home. Great thing, you've got highways in all directions. Yeah.
Mr. Simon.
Okay. Several, right.